Today we're looking at Team Corrali's latest release, which looks to rival its competitors in the 10th scale 4-wheel drive monster truck market. Let's get into it. What's up everybody? Today in front of us we have this beautiful bastard stepchild that is the Kagama4. That's right, somewhere over in Belgium there is a couple RC engineers hiding under the Team Corrali roof trying to give a stick to the big guys, and once again they have succeeded in creating a very well-rounded, super cool, and what looks like a tank of an RC truck. Seriously though, this is like a true junkyard build done right. Team Corrali took everything good from the 8th scale Synchro 4 buggy platform, transferred it over to here and made a monster truck with design hints and cues from the Kagama 6S truck and their Skeeter 10th scale truck. And with all of that combined, we got the Kagama4. Now when you first get your Kagama and open up the box, it's going to be pretty much bare bones inside. You're of course going to get the truck and radio, and then you'll just get your instruction manual, radio instruction manual, and an antenna tube. Other than that, there's nothing else. Now the list of parts carried over from the Synchro 4 is lengthy but well accepted, and those parts include the same chassis, shock towers, 8th scale big bore shocks, 6S differentials, bulkheads, chassis braces, arms, mounts, and the battery tray. I do also like how they carried over the shock guards from the Synchro 4 platform. They might be needed on the rear of this truck as the tower and shocks are exposed, but in the front, they're under the body. It's just overkill, and I'm here for it. Now it's also going to carry over all the same electronics as well, including the CT2S radio. Now this is a very love-hate subject. At first, I thought I really would not enjoy this, but when it came to filming and driving with the Synchro 4, this remote worked absolutely awesome, and it does feel really good in the hand. I know it's going to be a personal preference, but I like it. One important thing to note though, you are still getting that same receiver box out of the Synchro 4 buggy, which is not waterproof from factory, so just be careful if you're submerging this thing. You might want to waterproof that receiver box before you get too crazy. That of course means you're also going to be getting the CRHV7225 steering servo. Now in our Synchro 4 buggy, that servo performed very well. I'm curious how it's going to do in the truck with larger tires and a little bit more weight added. Now powering the truck and buggy, you got that Torax 135 amp ESC and the Kuron 725 2150 kV brushless motor, which is the rebranded Hobbywing Max 10 combo. And for the dude in the last video who didn't think that was true, this is an ESC that we replaced under warranty on one of these vehicles. And here is the manual that came with that. And on top you will read WP-Max 10 SCT RTR, and then it literally just lists all the different Hobbywing combos. Now I am slightly concerned about that motor and ESC in this truck, considering we did have some overheating problems with the Synchro 4. Although this can be easily combated with a fan and some gearing change, I really would have liked to see Team Corrali add a fan to the motor from factory. Now, setting the Synchro 4 aside, let's talk about everything new in the Kagama4. Let's start in the back and talk about that new wing. It's basically identical to the Synchro 4 wing, except for the middle. The little indent fins go all the way to the top. And then of course the body on this, it's a truck, so it's obviously a different shape. It has these really nice plastic skids up top, and you do have that center brace in there. So when it lands on top, you're not going to have the body indenting and causing any excess damage. Speaking of the body, I am a huge fan of this thing. You may or may not be, dependent on your preference, but I think personally it reminds me of the 10th scale stadium truck bodies and 8th scale truggy bodies of the late 2010s, which is like peak aesthetic area for truggies. And I know a lot of you guys are getting pretty zesty with those bruggy bodies. Y'all do you. I'm a truck guy.
It's a figure of speech, Morty. They're bureaucrats. I don't respect them.
This green is also super vibrant, so if you're on the fence about choosing the color, I would definitely recommend the green. The red and blue both look great also, but this thing is beautiful. Continuing on with the body, Team Corrali still is using body clips on their vehicles, but it's not necessarily a problem. They do have the rubber retainers, and these body clips are huge, and they are bent as well, so they're super easy to get in and out, no problems there. Continuing on with the exterior of this truck, you'll see Team Corrali actually carried over the tires and wheels from their Skeeter model. Now these tires are actually pretty stiff. They're not as stiff as the Synchro 4 buggy tires, so they should grip up pretty good. And to hold on those Skeeter tires, there is a change that may go unnoticed unless you take the wheel off, and that's going to be their wheel nuts. They finally went to a serrated wheel nut, which is probably the most requested upgrade on the Synchro 4 and other vehicles they offer. Flipping the truck over, you are going to notice the same beautiful anodized chassis that's on the Synchro 4 buggy, with one big change, and that's going to be the skid plates on the bottom of this that came from the Kagama 6S platform. Now, one thing to note though, these are one piece, so the skid plates also act as your bumpers on the Kagama 4 model. The last thing different on the exterior of this truck, you're gonna have to turn it around and look at it from the back to see the wheelie bar. Wheelie bar is pretty much a necessity on any monster truck RC, and this one is a hard ABS-like style plastic with some grooves cut out in there. So now that we're done on the exterior, let's go ahead and take the body off and see everything new inside. There's a couple things that'll jump right out at you on this truck. The first probably being that huge tower in the middle. And again, that's to support the body in rollovers and crashes. And that's sitting right in the same area as those plastic skids on the body. Also protruding out of this thing are these massively thick body mounts. Like seriously, these are some of the thickest body mounts I've ever seen, and this would almost be something that you'd see on a 5th scale RC to mount up the body. They are some chunky boys. Alright, in that same area, you're also going to notice 2 chassis braces on this model that connect the center diff to the front and rear bulkheads. And on top of that rear mount, you're going to notice a little box, and that's actually for a GPS speedo. One other thing they went bigger with on the Kagama 4 is the side guards on the chassis. As you can tell, they're a little bit taller than the Synchro 4, and they stay that same height all the way down the back of the chassis. And taking a closer look at the truck, there's actually 2 major changes that are a little bit harder to see. The first is going to be the motor mount. This truck actually comes with an aluminum motor mount from factory instead of the plastic one that comes on the Synchro 4. And this aluminum motor mount comes with presets for 13, 15, and 17 tooth pinion gears. And to see the other major change on this truck, you're actually going to have to go to the front under the bulkhead and the tower to look at the steering bell crank. This truck actually uses a steering setup out of their larger 8 scale Kagama 6S truck instead of the Synchro 4 buggies. That way you get a little bit better support out of your steering system. Now, I did save my personal favorite changes on this truck for last, and I actually have to take the wheels off to show you. Coming down, you're going to see the front steering blocks and the rear hubs are wider and bigger on this Kagama 4 compared to the Synchro 4. They did this so they can widen the truck without using hex extenders, but still be able to use most of the suspension components off the Synchro 4. Now, wider rear hubs and front steering blocks mean you're going to get some longer CVDs and axles in this truck also. That being said, you are still getting that 6S inspired driveline, including the diffs, which is awesome. You can take this, rip the motor and ESC out, and upgrade it to 6S right from factory with no problems. So now that we've reviewed all the features of this truck, it may lead you to the question, does size matter? And as far as the Kagama 4, it's kind of the odd man out when comparing it to its rivals over at Arrma, the Outcast, and Kraton 4S. Now, while this truck is almost the same height and length as the Outcast 4S, it does have a longer wheelbase, but it is narrower. In fact, its wheelbase is almost closer to the Kraton at 13 inches instead of the 13.9. And interestingly enough, it's pretty much the same weight as the Kraton 4S. Now, when comparing this truck to the competition, not only are the Arrmas bigger, but they are faster from the factory. I do think though the Kagama 4 is going to have them beat in the durability department, considering the Arrmas have a couple critical fail points that this truck does not. The first being the diffs. As we mentioned earlier, this truck comes from factory with the 6S drivetrain. It's going to be able to more than handle the power you give it. Arrma and the V1s had some issues with the diffs. They tried to revise that in the V2, but a lot of guys are still having issues with the 4S Kraton and Outcast. The other big difference is going to be the chassis plate itself, where the Kagama has the big 3mm thick aluminum one. The Arrmas have that plastic tub chassis, which is known for cracking and breaking. Now, the other thing the Kagama has going for it is the super beefy suspension components. It does add weight, as this truck is heavier than the Outcast and almost the same weight as the bigger and faster Kraton, but with good reason. This thing is beefed up in all the right spots. And then the final difference between the two trucks, the thorn in Arrma's side that Corrali likes to be, this truck is going to be $30 cheaper than the 4S Outcast and Kraton. Be sure to let us know down below if you want to see a comparison video between this and one of the Arrmas. We'll happily purchase one to put on the channel. And before any rumors get started, we are definitely not anti-Arrma. I actually own the Kraton 6S. I have for a long time. As you can tell, it's one of the older versions. Love the truck. It's an absolute beast. We just don't sell them, so you're not going to see much of them on the channel. So I don't know about you guys, but I'm done here in the studio. Let's get outside and get to ripping on the Kagama 4S from Team Corrali. The grip level on this truck is good also. It picks the wheels right up off the ground when you punch it. Definitely a lot more grip than the Synchro 4 on this oil and stone road. So this thing definitely gets around the field a little bit better than the Synchro 4 with the higher ground clearance. Just bashing right around like a monster truck should. And it is a ton of fun. This thing absolutely rips on 4S. Oh. And I think it's important to point out that it is very cold outside, so motor temp shouldn't be a problem. Oh, nice, right on the wheels. With the higher ground clearance and bigger tires, it definitely rips up this pipeline a little bit better than the Synchro 4, but both are still really fun on here. It's actually the same indent where we go sledding in the wintertime. Nice. We're gonna go out of the leaves and we're gonna go right here, see if we can't get a little bit more speed coming down. Oh, which we definitely did. Oh. Nice. Oh, we got our first breakage. Oh no. All right, I guess we're going wingless for the rest of this day. All right, and as you can see, there's a clean snap right there. We landed directly on that wing at full speed and just snapped it right off. That is definitely going to be an upgrade point. So in reality, all we got was a little weight reduction and cosmetic deformation. Nothing a little plastic surgery can't fix later. So I know one of the big talking points on this vehicle is that it's slower than factory from the two Arma trucks, which it is by about 5 miles an hour. I believe the Armas do 50 miles per hour out of the box, and some guys get a little bit more than that. And this Team Corrali is advertising 45 out of the box. Now, there is gearing changes you can do to get a little bit more speed out of this guy. But honestly, on 4S, ripping this thing around, for most people, this is plenty. I mean, even punching it right here in the grass, it's just picking that front end up on every little bump and nook and cranny. And it's easy to drive, but it is a beast. It is so much fun bashing around out here. And I think they accomplished that by giving it a 13-inch wheelbase, which is a little bit longer than most 10-scale monster trucks, but obviously being less wide, shorter overall, and then less tall, it just makes for like this really fun stunt truck, truggy hybrid that is just an absolute blast to beat around on. So I do want to point out that the brake noise on this truck from factory with the factory settings is louder than just about any other RC I've ever owned. Like super loud. See if we can't get a couple good launches off of here. So I noticed this truck, it does front flips very easily with how strong the brake settings are. It is very tough to get a back flip out of it. Even though it has a pretty good amount of traction and pretty good speed and torque, just does not want to backflip. So you might end up having to play around with the diff fluids a little bit, change up the gearing, the weight ratio, a little bit of something in order to get the back flips down. Or maybe you could just add some weight in the back. That was pretty cool. All right, so we've been running for about 25 minutes now, and the motor is absolutely cool to the touch, so overheating is no problem. It is in the 40s. You know, if you're running this thing and it's a little warmer out, a fan is just a really easy measure of protection on this. You are getting a little bit more airflow than the buggy, but still, if it's warm out, I would definitely recommend putting a fan on here. Uh-oh, it popped the body off. See what happens. Alright, so front body post mount just snapped off right there. The posts themselves are fine, they pulled right out. It's just the actual ears on the post, which screws in right here. It's just 2 screws to replace that. It took a good smack. The body posts themselves are very thick. I would never expect that to snap. You don't need front body posts on this truck, apparently. That body is seriously barely moving at all. You see a little bit of body roll, but it's not going anywhere. That rear body post and tower is still supporting everything, so you can't even tell it's broken, which is awesome. Almost lost an ankle there. Well, our battery is finally dead on the Kagama4, so we are done out here today. That being said, we did beat the crap out of this truck, and we did not come out unscathed. As we saw earlier in the video, we snapped that rear buggy wing mount right off of there. But surprisingly, the wing held up absolutely perfect. Like, there's nothing wrong with this wing at all. It was just the mount, and snapped the front body posts off. Both are really easy repairs. Now with the wing mount, that's actually integrated into the chassis tower. I wish they would have left those separate so we could replace just that. But maybe something aftermarket will come out where you can drill 2 holes, cut them off, or just a whole separate tower setup, something aluminum maybe. On the front, it's a different story. It's just 2 screws that mount into the front bulkhead. You can just replace that part super easily. Now that impact was so hard, when we took these body clips out, this one fell right out. That right one actually jammed the body clip through the post and under the body. But overall, the body took that abuse so well. There is not a crack in this thing. The roof skids did their job in the rollovers. It still looks almost good as new. Clean it up, throw some polish on there, you won't be able to tell the difference. Now, I thoroughly enjoyed this truck. It is a ton of fun. They take everything good from 8th scale, like 4S power, the drivetrain, but then they give you a 13-inch wheelbase, really narrow, really short truck. The only way I can describe this thing, it's like a rabid chihuahua with the body size of a pit bull. And it just makes for one really fun, easy to drive platform. It's super beginner friendly, more than enough power for this thing. All the electronics held up super great. Motor is still cool as a cucumber, and that servo did really, really well. I did not have high hopes at all for this thing, but it definitely exceeded my expectations and fits this size of truck really well. So is the Kagama4 worth it? Abso-freaking-lutely. I can't wait to see what the aftermarket guys have for this thing. There's, I think, 3 brands making parts for the Team Corrali stuff. You got M2C, Vivitron, and there's one more, and I might be pronouncing Vivitron wrong, but they all been coming out with some cool stuff. This is brand new, literally just got released a couple days ago, so it'll probably be a couple months before we see many parts. But as long as they make a rear tower for this thing, and maybe something else for the body mounts, I'll be super happy. I don't really ever see you breaking much anything else on this thing. I mean, the hubs and the pillow ball mounts, I mean, that's something you'd see on a freaking army tank. You have this huge chassis brace supporting the body, these chassis braces in here, 3mm chassis, you know, thick gearboxes. The wheelie bar did absolutely great. You got the big skid plates underneath, and really, we did not scratch the chassis too much, so I'm pretty happy about that. And then these plastic steering links that they've been going with on the budget vehicles, they're super thick and they seem to be holding up really well. And honestly, I'm not sure how many other people are going to break these front body mounts unless you land directly on the nose of the truck like we did. I think the biggest concern for these guys is going to be that rear wing mount. Just because this truck isn't super great at backflips, and if you do get it all the way up and don't hit that brake in time, you're going to be landing on the wing quite a bit. And I understand the biggest thing people complain about Team Corrali with is the part support, but it is consistently getting better and better and better. HRP is the US distributor. They have pretty much everything in stock, which they also run Team Corrali USA. RC Hobby Explosion online, they have everything in stock. They're a really good hobby store too. I've used them personally in the past to order a few things. Those guys down there are great and treat you well. But don't get too used to their service, because soon at Naughty Boy RC, we're going to have every single part for all the Team Corrali models in stock. It's something we're working on. I'm really hoping by like February, March, we can get it all there and going. As far as the local hobby shops go, Traxxas and Horizon brands just have that down pat. HRP is in a ton of local hobby shops also though. So if you see your hobby shop carrying like High-Tech, Hobbywing, Castle, Savox, Rage RC, Diecast Masters, HPI, stuff like that, ask them. They might already be a dealer through HRP. And if that's the case, that means they can actually order you parts for this thing on their next parts order. And Team Corrali is doing a really good job on the video production and social media side of things. They've really stepped up their game in the last year or two. And I think as long as they keep doing that and all these small YouTubers keep getting this vehicle, I think you're going to see this brand continuously grow, continuously rival Arma and Traxxas at that top basher spot, and just continuously make really exciting designs. These guys don't seem to be afraid to push the boundaries on these trucks. And, you know, everyone keeps asking for rally cars and a short course truck. Team Corrali's kind of hinted at the short course truck a couple times, and they really seem to be a RC manufacturer of the people, so I'm really excited for the future of the Team Corrali brand. And maybe it's just the part of the country you live in, or you just have a really good RC community, but I always find that I can't buy the parts in my local hobby shop funny. I get wanting to support your hobby shop and the brands, but that shouldn't completely stray you away from trying a new brand and purchasing just one car from that brand just to have fun. And it's also really funny because a lot of people that say that, I guarantee, are ordering the cheapest lipos and servos they can find online instead of shopping at their local hobby shop. I know there's a lot of people that support their local hobby shop 100%, but there's also a ton of people that talk the talk but don't walk the walk. Ask me how I know. 3 failed hobby shops 20 minutes from where our HQ is. That exact problem. So if you want to find Team Corrali cars right now and parts in the very near future, you can click the link down in the description below that's going to take you to these trucks, or you can head directly over to our website, www.naughtyboyrc.com. And remember, keep it naughty.